So now that we're all nice and stretched, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to Pokésports. I'm here with xRazeOvation, Kevin, of course. How are you doing, Kevin?
Hello, good. And you, Mike?
I'm doing well. Guys, this is a competitive Pokemon podcast. The name, I have to say, was a genius contribution by Kevin.
Thank you.
That was like the best name that I've ever heard.
It's also the simplest name you've ever heard.
It's the simplest. And that's the point, right? It's so simple and clean. And that's the way that I'm feeling tonight.
Simple and clean. We showered before this podcast.
Well, half of us did.
Which half you guys will decide.
You decide. So guys, this is going to be the leak-free first episode of Pokemon Sword and Shield. Of course, Pokemon Sword and Shield isn't out yet, so we have to kind of deal with just the information that we've been given. But we're going to keep it to only the information that has been given through the Pokemon Company for tons of reasons. But the main one being, some people are trying to stay leak free. Some people are trying to stay not listening to Twitter and all of their true or not true ideas. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Unfortunately, I was not one of those people.
I mean, me neither.
But it's
right?
okay.
Like, we both know too much, but we're not gonna.
But
we're gonna keep
what? Knowing too much is what made us hyped to start this podcast.
I mean, that's true. Exactly.
So
right.
there that is. So something good came out of spoiling ourselves.
It's true. So the episode before Sword and Shield comes out, which is this one, is going to be just all about what VGC was and what we know so far, and some of the really interesting things happening in the competitive scene. And then next week we're gonna, since it's going to be still kind of a new time for Sword and Shield, it'll only have been out for like 3 days. We're going to talk more about battles in general. So a little bit of what you need to know before going into battling and all that, like kind of a traveler's guide.
Yeah, next week is definitely a big week, especially since we finally get to talk about the big new Pokedex that is going to be out. So definitely a big week next week.
Yeah, that one's going to be an exciting one.
But this week is even better because it's the first week.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So
just to give you a little bit of overview, a little bit more about Pokésports. So we're going to be talking about the evolving metagame of Pokemon. So we're talking about the esports behind Pokemon. We're going to explain the basics of VGC, the basics of battling in general, and that kind of thing. If you're listening to us on Twitch right now, if you're one of the people in the chat, make sure you're saying hi. We're happy to have you. If you're listening to us on YouTube every Wednesday, then again, we're happy to have you there too. Or wherever you get your podcasts. We're going to be over there soon too. That's going to be pretty interesting, pretty exciting.
And if you are watching us on YouTube or listening to this on your podcast, then we stream this every Sunday on Twitch. Right now, it's StillJustMike. It might change in the future, but if it does, we'll let you know.
Exactly.
We do that every Sunday around 9 p.m. is usually when, which would be the best time for you guys to, get your questions in, have us answer them, listen to your VGC and your competitive Pokemon news, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly. And on the topic of questions, we will be answering questions at the end of our show. But if you want to leave us a question to answer, simply type !question before your question, and that should index it properly for us. Again, we're going to go through all of those questions at the end. And we'll have a good time. Now, obviously, donation questions, if you're on Twitch right now, we'll have +1 priority on Twitch. So if you're looking to support the podcast at any point when you're listening and you want to ask us a question, please feel free to do that. And of course, go ahead.
Podcasts cost money. So any donation helps because they'll just help us continue with this podcast. All proceeds go directly back into this podcast.
Exactly.
Me and Mike both have full-time jobs. We both have our own channels, our own YouTube. We're doing this right now for fun and to see where it goes. And if we can get it to that point where it can be self-sustainable, then all power to it.
All power to it. And of course, on that note, subscribing always helps us out. So feel free to do that. We'll be calling you guys out at the end of the episode. So I think without kind of any further ado, let's get into it. All right. And I do already see an exclamation mark question. Thank you so much. We will be answering those at the very end. All right. Oh, look at that. So first thing that we want to talk about, we're talking about the improved techniques for Pokemon training. I don't know if you've seen the YouTube video that came out from the Pokemon Company a little while ago, but they dropped this video that was so obviously for the competitive players. And it was a treasure trove of information that we just want to unpack for you guys today.
So much changed in comparison.
Oh my gosh. Kevin, how do you feel about the changes in general?
Without
getting too deep.
Without getting too deep. Okay. I think that it's definitely a breath of fresh air, because the biggest problem with competitive in previous generations or seasons was how difficult, because competitive is built into different stages when it comes to Pokemon. You start off with your team building phase, which is very tedious, very long, very difficult, especially if you're trying to do it legitimately.
Right.
That's the longest phase. And then after you team build, you go out and you perform with your team. You go and try it out in battles. But the issue is, if your team doesn't meet expectations, you have to redo your first phase again and redo that whole team building phase again. And that's where it becomes tedious. That's where I think that's where like competitive Pokemon has had the biggest turnoff. So the fact that they're implementing these new techniques for, cutting down that beginning phase, it's still going to be there, but it's going to be a lot shorter, is definitely necessary.
That's very true. Okay, so let's get into some of those changes. So first off, they went into this screen and they showed us this selection of mints. Now, what do these mints do? They change the nature of each Pokemon to its specific mint type. So a modest mint will change a Pokemon's nature to modest. And what does modest do again? Is that special attack up, attack down?
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
So each nature increases a stat by 10% and decreases a stat by 10%. Are there any exceptions to that rule actually?
Some don't do anything. There's some neutral natures. But
neutral natures, yeah, right. So here they were showing a modest nature onto the Pikachu, changing its nature to modest, which is, one of the main things that people breed for. Kind of the first thing that you breed for is nature before you get into EVs and IVs and all that stuff. I remember when we were looking at this at first, we right at the top there, Lonely Mint.
Just in case you want a lonely Pokemon.
I mean, right?
Can you imagine like a real life scenario of these mints actually working on you, and like you eat a candy and it determines your mood for the rest of that day?
Charisma bar. Oh, this is my courage marshmallow. I pop that in and I'm good to go. I love that.
I want to be a little naive today. Let's be a little naive.
Whoa. Are we being too... How many hasty mints have we had today? Oh my God, this is going to be such a meme. I love this. Have a little bit less naive mints. Why don't you? What does this mean? It means there's no more breeding for natures. It means you don't have to drop your Pokemon off at the daycare to breed for natures. That's amazing.
Which used to take a while, especially if you didn't have a backbone Pokemon to work off of. You just have to literally sit there until you get lucky and get the one you want.
You have to just roll it.
And there's a lot of natures.
There's a lot of natures. All right, next off, they gave us base stat supplements. Now, base stat supplements are not they're not new, but what is new and what is so exciting for this game is that you don't have to or rather you can use more than 10. All right. So you can use a full set of 26. I would recommend 25 base stat supplements to get your Pokemon to its max stat that you're trying to upgrade.
Now, me and Mike yesterday, we were going over, the topics for today, and we came across the stat supplement topic. And when we first originally watched this trailer that released like weeks ago, we kind of glazed over this because we were like, oh, calcium, carbos, iron. We know what those do. We don't have to go over this. But then we looked at it, and the fact that there's no more like limit cap, because if you guys don't know, before it was you can use these supplements until 100, but you had to do the rest on your own. But now that's gone. So you technically don't even have to battle Pokemon in the wild to get the right EVs that you want on Pokemon anymore.
Or do any super training or anything like that.
Yeah, nothing. No. Again, nothing tedious. Just something that'll probably cost a couple of bucks. But if you guys can see on the screenshot that you have on your screen right now, this person has a lot in their inventory, like more than you'd be able to have in previous games. So we are thinking, you know, maybe the game like just hands it over to you in random items. Maybe they're just super cheap in a shop, or you know, maybe Game Freak just decided to
post game. Maybe it's, I don't know, or maybe money is more easily accessible. Who knows? But you can see here that they gave a little highlight just to really hammer home that, like, yeah, no, when you use 26 calcium, it's going to bring your special attack on a Gengar that is level 47 from special attack 140 to special attack 170. So it works. It works now, which is fantastic. Oh my God, I can't believe that.
It's so good.
The one thing that I will say, and I kind of mentioned this a little bit at the beginning, is remember, only use 25. You can use 26, but if you use 26, you're going to ruin your Pokemon, because Pokemon allow for 510 EV points. All right. And we're going to get further in. If you don't know what those are, we'll get further into it later. Pokemon allow for 510 EV points. So you can put 255 stats of special attack for Gengar's sake and 255 for speed. But you only get one stat every 4 points. So the way that kind of distributes is, if you have 252 of a certain stat, then you'll get the max. That 255, that's just 3 wasted points. Same thing with speed. If you get 255, that's 3 wasted points in EV points in speed. So if you just will go up to 252 with, say, 25 calcium, and 2 wings, I believe they were the items that did 1 EV. Is that right?
Yeah, it's like Pretty Wing, Healthy Wing.
Yeah, right.
Things
those kind
like
of
that.
wings. Then you'll have 6 EV points left over, which can give you 1 extra stat, which is kind of negligible, but I mean, use it, right?
No. I have to go back to what you said, Mike.
Tell me.
It will ruin your Pokemon.
It will ruin your Pokemon.
There's no in between. That one stat, it matters. It will ruin your Pokemon.
I mean, honestly, if you've lived at 1 HP before.
Exactly.
Yeah,
absolutely.
There you go. So 1 health matters. Every point matters. All right. And then, of course, there were some extra changes. And let me just go down here. Oh, look at this. So on top of the base stat supplements, on top of the nature mints, we now have the ability to pass over egg moves to other parents. Now, again, for a lot of people, that's going to sound like complete gibberish, but hear me out on this. Previously, when you had to go to the daycare, when you went to the daycare to try and breed Pokemon to get your proper natures, to get your proper IVs, to get what have you, one of the things that you had to breed for were egg moves. So you had to put, say, a Pichu in with, or a Pikachu rather, that had a certain move in with like another Pokemon that didn't have that move, to breed the Pikachu's move onto that Pokemon. Now you get to put the father and the mother in the daycare at the same time.
Or the Ditto.
Or the Ditto. And, well, that Ditto doesn't have any egg moves, so that doesn't work.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, never mind.
Anyway, the mother or the father will pass their egg moves that they just happen to have onto the parent that doesn't. Trust me when I say that's amazing.
Yes, that's incredible, honestly. That's incredible. And it passes all of them, not just one of them. Yep. All of them.
Take a look at this screenshot that I took from that same video. They put a female Sylveon in with a male Sylveon, which will be producing an Eevee. But the Moonblast and the empty selections that the male Sylveon has, and the full move sets that the female Sylveon had, were passed over. So look at that. Now the male Sylveon has Moonblast, Wish, Charm, and Yawn. All of those 3, which are egg moves, moved over from the female Sylveon.
Now, another thing worth mentioning is that you don't even get an Eevee. You just have that Sylveon that has those egg moves.
That's right. That's right.
And this also includes, I'm assuming, Pokemon of the same egg group, right? So you can get a Skitty and you can get a Wailord. Maybe not in this game, because we don't know the Pokedex yet. You can get a Skitty and a Wailord, and you could pass on their egg moves, whatever the heck they are, because for some reason they're in the same egg group.
For whatever. Weird.
So that's also included, which is just incredible, because you don't have to sit there making eggs, hoping that the ones you want pass over. Because I don't think it was 100% guaranteed either. Or not all of them didn't pass over at once. You have to like stack them on top of each other.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, everybody had like certain moves were egg moves and certain moves were not. So like moves that the Pokemon could learn weren't necessarily egg moves for that Pokemon, but they were egg moves for other. I think it's a whole thing. It's confusing, but this makes it so much less confusing.
And another thing that all these are all technically quality of life changes. Like this doesn't impact the gameplay at all. It only really impacts the team building phase of competitive. It opens competitive up to a wider audience.
Yes.
Much wider. Yes. Because before, if no one told you this, how are you going to know this? Like that, it's just one of those scenarios, right? So the fact that it's opening up competitive to a wider audience, this could be the stepping stone. I mean, Pokemon has been in the competitive scene for quite some time, but they have never stretched far beyond the horizon. They've kind of always gone at their own pace. I mean, they're step by step increasing their prizing pools from like year to year, but it's still nothing on the level of like League, Dota, Fortnite, like anything like that.
Right, and it's all because there's just not enough people. Mm-hmm. It's so hard.
It's a confusing game. Not confusing. They just don't spoon feed you at all.
Right.
And if you don't put in the effort to find out, and if it, someone that's new to competitive and, they're watching a video and that video just tells, oh, you have to make sure you get 252 EVs, 31 IV breed, et cetera,
yeah,
they're just going to be overwhelmed. Like,
exactly.
They're just going to be like, I'm not going to do this. But now it's a lot easier.
And there's going to be, I would assume that with all of these new mechanics, there's going to be a lot of in-game ways for them to actually explain how it works or to explain what to do. Because I feel like that has been Pokemon's like number one problem for so long, is just its inability to onboard new people. And its inability to kind of make the team building part fun. So I've found that like when people were playing old Pokemon games, they were able to create like maybe 1 or 2 teams and just kind of blast through any kind of post game with just those teams and not really make any changes. But now you're able to like experiment and you're able to, try out new things because it's not harder. It's not hard to create a new team. You can have from all of the things that have been added, including the new things like experience candies, which, which the extra large ones give 30,000 experience. You put 4 of those on a Pokemon.
Ridiculous.
4 of those on a Pokemon, they're already level 50.
Like, that's literally ridiculous. We did the math for that yesterday. Like the average of all Pokemon to get to level 50. Now this is an average. Obviously, there's different Pokemon that take different experience levels.
There are experience groups. I didn't know this.
Yeah. Again, how many years have we been playing Pokemon? Right? There's just so many things nobody tells you.
It's true. It's true.
You just kind of level up and you're like, oh, this one seems to take a little bit longer than this one, but you don't give any notice to it. But yeah, the average for all Pokemon to get to level 50 is 125,000 experience.
Yeah.
1 extra large candy gives you 30,000 experience.
That already gets you a quarter of the way there.
Exactly.
It's nuts.
More than a quarter, and then,
because of course if bottle caps come back too, then that removes the whole need for IV breeding. You can potentially have your one favorite nicknamed Pokemon carried all the way to the top of its potential,
I have
you
a
won't
theory,
have to
Mike.
run around for hours and hours. What's your theory?
My theory is the fact that they didn't mention bottle caps means one of two things.
Okay.
Either it's not in the game and they're removing it so that you still have a reason to breed, or they're removing IVs, period.
Oh, that's a.
And
Someone's
the reason
taking a couple adamant mints here, man. Like,
adamant. Hey,
also, they should be called adamants. Let's be honest.
Adamants. Put your naive mint down. No, take a naive mint for a second. I need to explain something to you. I need but the reason I'm saying that is because I don't know if you know about this, but there was a Game Informer interview where they had like a lightning round with the creators of Pokemon.
Okay.
With Masuda and Omori, and they explained that there is gonna be a mechanic to make Pokemon that you took with your journey, that you took with you on your story mode journey, because they understand that people want to keep playing with they have special meaning, et cetera, whatever. There's a mechanic so that they can be competitively viable. Now, people just assumed, okay, that's this whole mint thing, but IVs are a thing, and if they really want it so that you can carry these Pokemon to be competitively viable, then IVs have to be considered too. So either one of the two things I think is going to happen.
I think people
or they just keep bottle caps in. I don't know. I just figured they would have talked about it if they did, because they talked about everything else.
Okay, so this is an interesting argument, though, because I understand the need for IVs, but if they were to remove IVs, and I'm going to play in your space a little bit, I do understand that too. Because why? What are really the point of IVs in the first place? They're
just for hidden power, essentially.
Oh, that's fair.
Just for hidden power. I mean, there could be other ways of I mean, at this point, there could just be an NPC in the game that lets you choose hidden powers.
I mean, right? Like they handhold you all the way there.
Yeah, at this point in the game, like I said,
that would be interesting.
Me and Mike don't own the game. None of this was leaked, so we're not even teasing you. We genuinely don't know anything about this topic. We're just exploring the possibilities.
And I mean, okay. So before we take a break, let's also mention that there were some other like small quality of life changes. Like now you can access your box from anywhere. 20 years later, they're finally, was it how many years has it been? 23.
25
25 years.
At least 25. I think the original games came out in 93. So
93. So 26 years later, they finally allowed you to use your box from anywhere. No. Finally.
They had it in Let's Go Pikachu, but that's like a baby game. Yeah.
We don't count that. And then nicknamed traded Pokemon can be renamed.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So if someone trades you something good and nicknames it something stupid, you can fix that. Oh,
wait, no. I'm wrong. I'm thinking about that more. No. Pokemon that were traded to you without nicknames, they can be nicknamed.
Oh yeah. That's also true. You weren't able to nickname like a Charizard that you got in a trade.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. Because it just like hard stuck that as like, oh no, this one's called Charizard. I called it that and it needs to stay that. It's like, no, I can name it Terry if I want to.
Okay.
Terry the Charizard.
But if you still get a stupid name Pokemon, you still have to use it.
It's true. And you had mentioned something about Gmax Butterfree. What was that you mentioned?
Oh, they released the schedule for the first Gmax raids that are going to happen. Apparently, it's on a schedule basis, so you can only get these certain Pokemon at a certain time, I think, which is interesting. They didn't really go into big depth about it, but they mentioned that from the release until January of 2020, the Gmax Butterfree is going to be available, and the Gmax Dreadnought is going to be available for Sword, and then Gmax Corviknight available for Shield. Amazing. Now, I don't know if they're going to interchange with Sword and Shield exclusives. Like, this is obviously a patchable thing, so every couple of months they're going to patch this in. So if you guys aren't getting the games within the next couple of months, you have until after Christmas to get it so that you can get your Butterfree, your Dreadnought, or your Corviknight.
You also have until Christmas to actually beat the game or to actually get to the point where you can buy them or get them.
Yeah. And guys, just so you know, since this is a competitive Pokemon podcast and we only talk about competitive, and sometimes mints, the Gmax Butterfree if this is legal in the format, because we don't know the format yet. There's some speculations on what it's going to be. But if the Gmax Pokemon are in it,
Okay.
Butterfree's Gmax ability is broken.
Tell me about it.
Oh, okay. It uses an attack, and then it hits everybody on the field, except for your Pokemon, I think. And there's a chance to paralyze, toxic, sleep, and freeze every Pokemon you hit. A 1 in 4 chance of each of those, which is ridiculous.
That's nuts.
So if that is actually allowed, I'm afraid. But
Gmax, Gmax Befuddle.
Yeah.
So that, okay, inflicts damages to the target, causes poison, paralysis, or sleep to all opponents. All opponents.
Oh, there's no freeze? Okay, there's no freeze, thank God.
No freeze, but still, poison, paralysis.
Or sleep,
poison, paralysis,
it's still good.
That's amazing.
No burns either. Okay, good.
No burns, right. No burns.
But still, those 3 are annoying.
Yeah. All right. So with that, we're going to take a little break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking a little bit more about VGC 2019. We're going to talk a little bit about what's coming up. We're going to be talking about a lot of stuff. But before we do that, I do just want to let everybody know that upon setting up this podcast, we have set up a bunch of ways for people to contribute. One of those ways being Patreon. If you go to patreon.com/Pokésports, Pokesports, you can check out our tiers there that we're going to be working on and developing as the coming days go. If you're on Twitch, you can also just type !Patreon in the chat and it'll come up with that link. Again, like Kevin said at the beginning, all donations to this podcast are put right back into the podcast. So if you're donating via Patreon or if you're donating via Twitch, all of that goes back into hosting on different podcast platforms. It goes into creating better assets. Obviously, we have what we have right here, but we do want to really develop this into something that everybody can really enjoy, and your contribution will really help to that. And
it's something that the market needs, because Pokemon, like we said before, it is not the biggest competitive scene, but it's still big. It still has followers, and just a competitive Pokemon podcast, it seems like it was necessary. So if you guys enjoy that idea, and you guys enjoy the fact that, you want Pokemon to grow into be something very relevant into, the global scene, because it is a popular game globally, then contribute.
Exactly. Game Freak should watch our podcast.
Game Freak is watching our podcast.
Oh. Okay. So we're going to be right back, and we will see you in just a second. Hey, we are back. During the break, I was alerted to something by one of our listeners, Juan. Hi, Juan. It looks like you don't actually need heart scales anymore.
Oh yeah.
Did you know that? So this
I'm afraid to say, because I think it's a spoiler.
It's not. This one's not. One's not.
Okay.
So this was something that Eurogamer.
I read about something else. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Right. So Eurogamer managed to get their hands on the game, and they let out an actual official release saying that heart scales are no longer needed to relearn moves. So
what does that mean? You just talk to Bob, and Bob gets you your moves back.
Basically. He's like, no, it's okay. Don't pay me. I'll just whatever.
Can you imagine this guy's entire life is dedicated to just memorizing Pokemon's moves and reteaching it to them? Oh, you silly Billy! You forgot tackle again? Here,
you silly Billy. Charges up to
This is how you tackles a Pokemon to the ground.
Oops.
This is how you fire blast breathes fire.
All right.
So I love Pokemon.
It's a way of life, isn't it? All right. So we're gonna get back into this, and what we're gonna do, we're gonna be talking about VGC 2019. Now VGC 2019 was was different.
It was a thing.
All right, VGC, obviously, for those of you, again, who don't know, VGC stands for Video Game Championships. So that is Pokemon, like the official Pokemon tournament for this video game. It always has the same, or it's had the same format for the past couple of years. It's always been a double battle with 4 Pokemon selected out of the 6 that you bring in. So everybody comes in with a roster of 6. You pick 4 from that, and you go. And actually, one of the main reasons for us starting this podcast is I don't know a ton about VGC. I know Kevin has lived it for years and years, but I want to know more. So VGC 2020, I'm going to try and get a little bit more into both with this podcast and with Kevin.
We're going to stick Mike inside of regionals, boys. I can't wait. We're going to put him right there. And whether he wins or loses, he's going to finish his series.
I already have one in my schedule. I already have one in my calendar that I'm going to next year. So that's interesting.
That's what I like to hear.
Well, it's the one that I'm going to go to with you, which is awesome.
Yeah.
That's going to be fun. So VGC 2019, from what I know, the winner was a Japanese person by the name of Naoto Mizobuchi, with a runner-up being Hirofumi Kimura. Have you heard of? Yeah. Have you heard of either of these people before?
I have not. They probably have top cutted before, but I think this is the first or maybe second time they've made it to the finals each. But all in all, I was very, very surprised. I went back and I watched the matches. There was a few things that caught me off guard that we're going to get into later after we go over their teams. But in the interview, I don't know, he took what nature is this? I'm trying to think of what candy this is. An adamant candy? This is an adamant candy, right? Or brave candy. It's not a brave candy.
Brave,
it's a brave. Okay. You think it's brave? Or it's a brave candy. And when asked, so do you have anyone to thank for this? He gave the best answer in the world.
He took an Audacity candy.
An Audacity candy. He said, nah, it's just me. Yeah. I only have myself to thank for this. And you know what? Maybe he's right.
I mean, usually people go up there and they're like, oh, I want to thank my family or my friends for supporting me to get up to this point. Like, I've always wanted to be the Pokemon world champion. But, he goes up there and they're like, oh, do you have anybody to thank? And he's like, nah.
Just me. I'm good. You know what? He's good at Pokemon.
I mean, he is good at Pokemon.
He's good at
Pokemon. Yeah. So the winner's team, Naoto's team, was basically your standard VGC 2019 staple Pokemon. Yeah. Right? Like if you were to go on, what's the stats website?
Picolytics.
If you were to go on Picolytics and look at the top 10 Pokemon used, those were all there.
These are all showdown statistics. That's also something else we might want to mention. They're not battle spot. Yeah, they're not battle spot statistics. They're I think showdown statistics. Or they're just no, that would be too much work if they gathered all of the regional data, because these are changing every day. So I think they're showdown statistics.
I see. All right,
so easy to come by.
Those staple Pokemon were Lunala, Salamence, Primordial Groudon, and Tapu Fini. Now, the opponent's Pokemon, he was running an Umbreon and Necrozma and a Primal Groudon, and then between the two games that they actually played, you had a Tapu Lele and a Salamence. But again, those first 3, Umbreon, Necrozma, P Groudon, they stayed the whole time in both games. Yeah, it was a quick 2-0 out of the best of 3. And it was kind of brutal.
Now, but here's the thing I do want to mention.
Yeah.
That Mizobuchi won with an Incineroar in his party, didn't bring it to a single battle.
Which is interesting because Incineroar was the by far most used Pokemon in VGC 2019.
Just to give you guys kind of an understanding of how big Incineroar is in this metagame, there's 800 plus Pokemon that are allowed to choose from. Out of those 800 Pokemon, there was an Incineroar on every team 75% of the time.
Jeez. That's nuts.
And the runner-up after that is Primal Groudon at 47. There's a big discrepancy just between those two numbers. It's almost 30%.
Jeez.
So yeah, that's a ridiculous.
And I mean, I feel like Nintendo knew that it was going to be big. They put Incineroar in Smash.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're right.
Saying,
I mean, it could just because it's a wrestler, but you know what? I like your idea better. I think it was intentional. I mean, what did Nintendo do at Worlds in 2014? They revealed Kangaskhan. No, 2015. Or one of those years. They revealed Mega Kangaskhan at Worlds. And what happened the following year?
Yeah.
Broken Pokemon.
Yeah, broken Pokemon.
Yeah.
So that's another thing. Are Megas going to be in this? Like, I'm curious if Megas are going to be in this game.
I don't think so.
Right?
I think Megas are dead. And I am bittersweet about it.
Why?
What are you about? Okay, I'll go first. I'm bittersweet because I like the idea that Megas gave irrelevant Pokemon relevancy.
Yes.
But I dislike the idea that the irrelevant Pokemon became so damn strong.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really scary. And along with that, they gave relevant Pokemon even more relevancy. Like you have your Salamence, your Metagross, your Pokemon that can function on their own, just receiving more power. It just seemed a little bit unnecessary.
Exactly. It's true.
And then we were introduced to Mega Rayquaza, and that was the nail in the coffin for me.
And that's when everybody knew, Megas are dead now. They want us to hate Megas. Got it. We can do that. I'm happy to do that.
At least they realized their mistake.
They did. See, what I think that they're doing is they learned from Sun, they learned from Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, that just adding on new mechanics is probably not the way to go. And I might be eating a lot of crow next week when, Megas are in the game and Alolan are in the game. But from what my hypothesis is going to be, I believe that they're not going to bring any Alolan Pokemon into the game. I believe that they're not going to bring any Mega Pokemon into the game because they have their G-Maxes, they have their Dynamaxes. I think that they're just going to run with that mechanic, let people experience the game with just that mechanic, and just that'll be the end of it. That's what I hope.
I agree with you. And another supporting factor to all that is that they weren't even able to include a full dex. So why would they include the extra Pokemon? They're not technically Pokemon. They're just forms of an already existing Pokemon.
Exactly.
So
if you don't bring that Pokemon in, then you can't bring in its alternate form. So that's 2 Pokemon just gone. And on that note, what I actually want to do is I want to provide us with some obituaries for certain Pokemon. If indeed Megas are gone from the game, which again, we don't know, it could be, it could not, who knows. If Mega Pokemon are indeed gone from the game, then that means that certain Pokemon, whether they be in the game or not, are going to become completely irrelevant. And so I just want to give a hearty rest in peace. First up to our bug friends, Pinsir,
our bug bros,
our bug boys, Pinsir, Beedrill, and Heracross. Kind of Heracross, but yeah, they're just
no
Heracross. Heracross is out the window. Heracross. See, and that hurts me so bad because Heracross in the shell was a pretty badass G.
He's just sticking on that tree, sucking some sap. No one bothered him.
Right? No one messed with him.
And the second someone did, they get the hoof
out of there,
or the horn.
Out of there. They get the horn.
Yeah, they get the horn. They get the mega horn.
So they're super gone. Who else is gone? You've got Ampharos, who's not going to see any play. Mawile is not going to see any play. Banette.
Oh God, Mawile.
Mawile. Oh my God.
God, Mawile.
See, Jesus. Mawile was one of those Pokemon that once they got a mega form, it was
so good.
Oh,
it was literally top 5 out of all the ones they introduced. Yeah. Mawile was top 5.
Mawile was amazing. Mawile was so good.
With the at the time unique typing of Steel Fairy too, which is really good.
Yeah. So Mawile's gone. Bye Mawile.
Bye Mawile.
Banette. Why do we need you? We have ghosts.
Banette was gone while it was a mega.
Yeah, I know, right? Absol, same kind of thing. Absol wasn't ever great.
It just looked nice.
It was definitely better with its mega.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It gave it some kind of purpose.
Exactly. It gave it a dog's purpose. Lopunny's gone. Bye, Lopunny.
Oh, another good one too. Actually saw a lot of play this year also.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about VGC.
It's true. And then our best friend Audino.
Oh, best Pokemon. 10 out of 10. Let's give a Pokemon only used for leveling up other Pokemon a Mega Evolution. It's like giving Mega Chansey or Mega. What's the point?
Mega Chansey. Oh, I had just thought of one that would have been so good.
Flygon, Milotic.
No, it was like same kind of breed as Audino. Spinda. Imagine a Mega Spinda.
But Spinda's so good, dude.
Spinda's so good. Spinda's my favorite.
Contrary superpower, dude. That's all you need.
Contrary superpower is really good. And then there are a couple that I'm kind of worried about. Like they're not terrible.
Bad.
They're not terrible, but they're not fantastic. That being only 3: Camerupt, Glalie, and Diancie. I'm just not so sure. Like I'm worried about you guys. Like call me.
Yeah.
I need Camerupt to call me.
Please, Camerupt, tell me how you're doing. I heard it's raining outside. Make sure you don't go outside. It's raining.
Oh man.
Glalie, you're just so angry. I think you might explode.
Yeah, oops. But like it used to have an outlet for that. It used to be able to Mega Evolve and get like super angry, but now it's just like gotta hold all that in.
Poor thing.
We're worried about them. So let's talk about what's coming up in VGC 2020. Now, obviously, inside the game, they've already announced a new competition coming up. Kevin, you want to talk about that?
They have, and this is relevant because it might just be a hint as to what VGC is going to be similar to. From December, I think December signups are going to have an international challenge, which means, anybody around the world can play at the exact same time. And I think they didn't say how many battles you have to do, but the rules are singles and Galar decks only, which is obvious because only the Galar decks exists. But it's interesting. It's just a singles battle. I don't think VGC is going to be singles. It hasn't been in a very long time or at all.
Right.
So I think that, but I do think it's just going to be doubles Galar decks.
You think it's going to be like the same kind of format, just with Galar decks?
Yeah, I think doubles Galar decks, no Zacian, no Zamazenta, no Eternatus. Everything else is fair game.
Yeah, that's
just
true.
like no cover legends.
Not a ton of like banned new Pokemon, banned old Pokemon. I suppose if it's Galar decks only, they're probably not going to bring back a lot of the legendaries, or if they do, then they're going to be banned. Who knows?
I know. I think there was actually there was a quote that said they're not bringing back any legendaries.
Really?
From post games. Yeah, I don't know. God. Don't quote me on this quote, but I think there was a quote.
I see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, who knows? Yeah. So I mean, VGC 2020 technically started back in September, but they do it kind of weird, right? Like they used VGC 2019's rule set and their Pokemon up until the new game comes out, and then when the new game comes out, they just do a hard switch over.
Now, that's interesting because it was like that before for, I think, when X and Y switched over to ORAS, it was like that. And then when ORAS switched over to Sun and Moon, also like that. It's a different, it's weird, but it's understandable. Like up until, you have VGC 2019 rules up until the game's release. So I think the last regional in the North America is the Oregon regional.
Okay.
That was actually this weekend while we're recording. The 8th to the 10th. So that would be the last VGC 2019 rules. And then it shifts to 2020 rules in the Daytona Beach, Florida regionals, which is the 29th to the 1st of December. That means that from this space, we're going to be finding out the rules. We still don't know the rules, but obviously once we find out, we'll go over them with you. I'm speculating just doubles Galar decks. No cover legends. Because that's what they always do. That's what it was for X and Y the first year. ORAS the first year. Sun and Moon the first year. So it's a pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's
I mean, that's
exciting.
interesting, right? Like, I can't wait for the new season. I'm curious what changes they're going to bring, what the rule set's going to be from a podcast perspective. I'm excited for this podcast for the week that all those rules comes out, because that's just going to be a like information left and right. We're going to have lots of stuff to talk about.
Easy content.
So again, let me just look at that. Yeah, I mean, what does VGC 2020, the pre Sword and Shield rule set and set of Pokemon mean? Which, you know, obviously it means that there's going to be a lot of use of VGC 2019's champion team. You know, there's always the fact too that there's going to be a lot of teams that are trying to specifically counter that team. And so you're going to see a lot of the meta shift to countering the, what was it? Lunala, Salamence, Primordial, Groudon, Tapu Fini,
Incineroar.
Incineroar, exactly. Most of that's just more Incineroar.
Now this is something specific to, or more, it's not specific because there does exist even in a unrestricted format like this one where everything is legal.
Yeah.
There does exist like counters from week to week, but countering what is meta is more prevalent in restricted dex formats because you have a lot less Pokemon to work with, a lot easier to counter the Pokemon that you know are going to show up. When you have an unrestricted dex, you just have scenarios where you have these Pokemon, these like, I guess like godlike Pokemon that can't simply be countered.
Right.
Like Incineroar, Groudon, Xerneas. Well, Xerneas can be countered, but the fact that you have to run a specific Pokemon in your slot to counter just one thing.
Who do you have to run to counter Xerneas?
I mean, you have a couple of options. You could do Ferrothorn. You can do
Gyro Ball.
Gyro Ball. Stacka, Gyro Ball. It's good because when he goes for Geomancy, he gets +2 speed. And since Stacka and Ferrothorn are so slow, the Gyro Ball just one shots. Or one or two shots. It depends on their investment, because usually they still want to go tanky, because Xerneas technically can't hit them at all unless they have like a hidden power ground or hidden power fire. Yeah.
Interesting. And is that something that you see a lot with Xerneas is running hidden power fire?
I've seen it in the beginning, not so much now. People just switch out now. They just don't care. They're just like, okay, here's an
Incineroar.
You want to bring out a Ferrothorn or a Stacka. Here's my Incineroar to just take it all, to not care.
That's fair.
Yeah.
There's something that we also use Air Balloon a lot on that.
Is that just
something that
yes.
I've seen in
think
Showdown?
So.
Okay.
I think so. But there's a couple things we forgot to mention. We also forgot to mention there were 2 more items that were added that were officially revealed, with its room service and oh
yeah, that was months ago.
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Oh yeah.
No, this was at Worlds. They revealed this.
Room
this
service and the trick room item. Oh, that is room service.
That is room service. The other one's called Eject Pack. Oh yeah,
Eject Pack. That's it.
Now, I want to talk about Eject Pack specifically because room service is kind of obvious. You make non-trick room Pokemon trick room. Simple.
We know people who would love that.
A couple people.
Yeah.
But yeah, that one's kind of straightforward to the point. You can make a Gengar very slow. Good job. Yeah. I don't know if it's worth the move slot. I mean, an item slot, but it's there. And the interesting one is Eject Pack, because that's a double-edged sword.
Tell me again what Eject Pack does.
If your stats get lowered, you switch out.
Oh, I see.
This is a double-edged sword because it's very good on, say, I mean, the trailer, they gave the example with Draco Meteor. You go for the Draco Meteor, do as much damage as you can, get the -2, switch out, and then you get switch priority.
Yeah.
To then, especially if you're a fast Draco Meteor user, you can attack, switch out, and then replace your Pokemon with something that you think can resist your weaknesses to take those hits for you. So it's really good in that scenario. But in other scenarios, like, what if you get Icy Winded? What if you get Intimidated? you switch out.
What if you get hit by something that's faster than you, and it lowers your stats?
And then you switch out and you never got to attack.
Or what if they switch into like an intimidator, and you know, that's just like, you know, your +6 priority, right? You're not getting an attack off that turn. You're not getting a hazard set up that turn because you just eject back to yourself out.
And that was a similar problem with eject button, right?
Right.
Like, eject button, unless you were faster, people could just touch you and you leave, and then you do nothing. That's why it was never really seen unless you're... I mean, the only Pokemon I've seen eject button be run successfully on are Fake Out, Intimidate, Hitmontop, because it wants to switch out after it gets the Intimidate off. It doesn't care.
Right.
It's kind of... It serves its whole purpose. And... what was it called? Politoed. I've seen it on Politoed, but even that wasn't
just
that
to
great.
set up the rain?
Yeah, just set up the rain, leave, and then bring in your Swift Swimmer.
Oh, okay.
That was like the thing, yeah.
Yeah,
but,
I could see that used on, I guess, like a Abomasnows, but who?
Yeah, like, it doesn't make a lot of sense.
Right?
Also, rest in peace to my boy Abomasnow. I love that Mega Evolution.
Oh, yeah, right.
That was a thing people
man.
forgot about.
And again, I just want to stress, we have no idea if those are going to be in the game or not.
We're just assuming they're not.
Just assuming that Megas aren't. We're assuming that certain Pokemon aren't. We have no idea. Anyway.
Imagine a Gigantamax Mega Evolution. just add stats on stats.
I'm not going to lie. When Dynamaxing first came out or first was announced, I had a straight up nightmare of Dynamax Mega Beedrill.
Oh, jeez, yeah. Let's give a Mega Beedrill more health.
Exactly. Let's give it more health. Let's make it bigger. Like,
what do you think about Dynamaxing and Gigantamaxing? Do you think that it's balanced? Do you think that it's going to be okay, or do you think that it's completely stupid and broken?
So it's just a health boost, right? A health boost, and like certain attacks are different.
Yeah, and usually they're better. They're stronger.
Right. I think it's going to be okay. Like, I can't see more health really changing a lot of Pokemon. I think it's going to be interesting to see if it's used in competitive, and how they use it. I mean, if the past is any indication, like they kept Z moves in, they kept Megas in, so I would assume that they're going to keep Dynamaxing and possibly not Gigantamaxing, but who knows? Keep those in the game. If they do keep Gigantamaxing in, and that's like a staple, then I would assume that much like in 2019 and 2018, 2017, there's going to be one Pokemon on each team that has the ability to Gmax. Much like there was one Pokemon that had the ability to use a Z move. There was one Pokemon that had the ability to go Mega. Like they were just so good. You wouldn't not want to run
around them.
You built around them, exactly.
But I do think they're nerfed in a sense that you only have 3 turns. And if this is VGC, you can protect 2 of those turns. Yeah. So they really only get 1, unless their moves break through protect. And if they do, well, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not. But I believe that I heard this months ago when there were... If you guys watch this on Twitch, you can tell us live. Yeah, you can absolutely. Please, on Twitch, tell us live. I believe I heard that those moves do go through protect, and that's not a leak. I know it's not a leak because I'm pretty sure that I heard that when Dynamaxing first came out. Do you think they go through 100% or just like 30% like Z moves did? Oh, that's true. I don't know. Oh, is that what it was? It was just down to 30%? It was a low percentage. Yeah, they break through, but they don't do full damage. Oh, I get it. They just tickle you. Yeah. So one of the people in chat, Hi Juan, says that there's a special protect specifically for Dynamaxing. I hadn't heard that. A super protect. Super protect. Interesting. Anyway, so that is almost going to end it. Before we end off, we do have a few questions here to ask. And again, just while we're answering these next couple, you can submit your questions by typing !question in the chat. We still have a little bit of time to get around to these questions. And also, if you're watching this on YouTube, you can leave a question and we will answer it the following week. We obviously can't answer it live, but yeah.
Well, we'll do our best next week. Again, that's actually going to be interesting for the people who leave comments this week. Since, this is going to be like this week, there's no game. Next week, there is game. So we'll be able to answer those questions with context with the games that come out next week. Anyway, the Juancito Marvel asks, what mon looks the most promising for the new VGC season? Both confirmed returning mons and new mons. So I guess for this one, we're just talking the ones that we've seen on release. Yeah.
Yes.
Ones that have been released.
Officially know. Okay.
Kevin, I'll let you go first on that one.
I have to think about this. That we officially know. Intimidate is big. I think Intimidate is going to continue being big because we have a lot of Intimidate Pokemons coming back officially that we're seeing in trailers. You got Gyarados, you got Arcanine, etc., etc. A lot of strong Intimidators, especially since Gyarados, even though no Mega, or quote unquote no Mega, is still very promising, still very strong Pokemon. You set up a D-Dance, you can actually almost sweep. It's kind of scary.
It's true.
And then Arcanine, you can make that the most defensive pupper you've ever seen. So I think in terms of just returning Pokemon, Intimidator's gonna be super big. There is gonna be a return of Milotic though. That's something to keep in mind. Milotic has competitive, and also female Meowstic is back in. I'm not sure. Actually, no, I'm not 100% on that. I think just competitive. No, what Pokemon have competitive? It's a Milotic, female Meowstic, and Gothitelle. I know Milotic's...
Wow, good for you. You really know those ones just like off by heart, huh?
I can't remember if Flygon's in or Milotic's in. I don't have the decks memorized.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair.
But I know... Okay, going back. I know Intimidate's going to be big. I don't know if a lot of competitive users are in or if a lot of Defiant users are in, but if they are, then Intimidate will obviously not be that favorable.
For me, I think that there's going to be a lot of the new Pokemon that are kind of made for power creep. I feel like Corviknight is going to be something, something of beauty. Either it's going to be as good as or replace Skarmory. I don't know if it's in the game. But like it has the same typing, I believe, does it not? It's Steel Flying.
Steel Flying.
I'm interested if it feels. I'm interested to know if it fills the same niche that Skarmory filled, because it did have that. It did have a place.
I think Skarmory was kind of like a defensive entry hazard setter. I think that Corviknight, he looks offensive. Like I look at Corviknight, I think of like, what's that Pokemon called? That Gen 4 bird.
Gen 4 bird?
Staraptor. I look at Corviknight and I think of Staraptor, like very hard hitting, very fast. Well, fast with a scarf bird, which gets access to like cool moves. But that's just my opinion. I don't know his moves. But in terms of new Pokemon that they're introducing, I think that
Chunky Pikachu.
Chunkster Pikachu, yes. I think that in terms of Gigantamax is probably pretty good too, also, to be honest, because I think only the OP Pikachu from Let's Go can turn into that.
Right.
And the Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee starters, they are broken. Like in the game, they're broken.
If they're gonna let me use whatever Zippy Zap or any of those moves, like Buzzy Buzz, that's. Yeah, I'm dropping the game. I'm see you next time. This was a fun podcast, but later.
But I think Duraludon is worth mentioning.
Duraludon, yeah,
because he has that new Steel type move that is kind of like a Steel Hyper Beam, I think, or something like that. Right. It's strong.
It's strong.
And Sirfetch'd, I think it's going to actually surprise a lot of people.
I hope so.
Be good.
I
think it's going to be good.
Sirfetch'd looks cool, and I just want it to be. I want it to be good. All right. Ryan Hunter has asked, which Pokemon do you want to see Game Freak bring into Sword and Shield, and which Pokemon do you hope they leave out? Oh, I like that one.
Oh, okay. I already know my answer to this.
Okay, please.
Okay. I want them to bring in irrelevant dragons.
Irrelevant
dragons. Dragons that exist. Yes. Dragons that exist, but never got to shine because they weren't Salamence or Garchomp.
Okay. All right. I'm on board with this.
Yes.
So we're talking Haxorus.
I want Haxorus. I want Kommo-o. I want Flygon. I want the irrelevant dragons. Hydreigon, we know he's in the game, but he's still good. Yeah. But I want no Salamence, and I want no Garchomp. Also, 2 Pokemon that got Megas and didn't need them.
That's true. That is true. They were great without them.
Yes.
And so to that point, a lot of people continued to use Garchomp even without the Megastone.
I think Garchomp unmega'd was more popular than Mega'd Garchomp.
See, I mean, that's the thing. Like, if you have a Pokemon that you can use without Mega, there really isn't a need for it to have a Mega at all.
It just got a Mega for popularity. That's it.
It did. For me, what do you hope they leave out?
Oh, Salamence and
that works.
And Garchomp, yeah.
Okay. And then for me, let me think about that. I think that I would want them to bring back. Oh, you know what? I have like 3 Pokemon that I loved using. Cloyster, I loved using. Clefable, I loved using because of the stored power and is it Cosmic Power?
Oh, maybe.
Was Cosmic Power? I think Cosmic Power was the one that upped the defense.
Upped both of them. Yeah.
Stored Power was the one that fired it off. Yeah. So Clefable was one and Breloom was one. I really want to see them bring back Breloom. I loved using Breloom.
I always saw you as a Minior.
Minior was great too. Oh man, I hope they have Minior. Minior had such great type. You could get like a nice shell smash off with that and like it wouldn't completely destroy it.
Yeah, because
it could take that one hit, right? Yeah. Shell smash, White Herb, and then acrobatics. That was fun.
That's literally only a singles Pokemon though.
Yeah, I know.
Because that whole strat goes out the window if you just double into it.
But there is a singles tournament in December.
Yeah, that's true.
So
fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed is my rapper name. All right. So I think with that, we're going to end our first episode of Pokésports. Kevin, how do you feel about this one?
Hey, Mike, we made it.
We made it. We made it. We actually went over. We managed to talk for over an hour on this one. That's promising.
We're the best. We're the best. Guys, don't subscribe for the podcast. Subscribe for us. Yeah, because we did it.
We did it. All right.
Speaking of us, here's our socials.
Yeah, speaking of us, you can find me at StillJustMike. You can just Google me. I'm apparently very searchable.
There it is.
I'm going to toot my own horn on that one. Best place you can find me right now is Instagram. Kevin, where can they find you?
xRazeOvation on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, xRaze. Wait, I can't even say my name. xRazeOvation.
There you go.
A lot of people ask me like if it means X-ray, like the thing doctors do.
Oh, no. Like XRAYS.
Yeah, no, yeah, XRAZE.
Like Ovation. A standing O for looking at your bones. Got it. And again, thank you to all the people who followed and subscribed to us on Twitch today, and for our new subscribers, thank you so much. Again, the podcast is recorded live on Twitch every Sunday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard, and then released everywhere else on Wednesdays. So go and follow us wherever you find your podcasts and wherever you find this podcast, and we will see you next week on another exciting episode of Pokésports.
Ooh, I got one more thing.
Tell me.
If you guys don't have the means to donate or subscribe, then a simple like or a rate, a review, etc. goes a long way because it's algorithm friendly. We like algorithms here.
We're fans of algorithms.
Because this is competitive Pokemon. This is a competitive Pokemon podcast where we talk about nothing but competitive Pokemon. And there are algorithms in that game. That's my connection.
We love the numbers. All right. We'll see you next week. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Are we off the air?
No.
Oh, hey, guys.
We weren't off the air at all.